Hi, Yari, hello everyone. In today's video, I'm going to show you such an interesting thing. This is AMD BC-250. This is the first Russian-language video on YouTube in which this thing will be shown. Congratulations to all of you. I congratulate you, because I want to please you with my subscribers with such an outlandish thing. I'll be the first on YouTube, class. I want to express my great gratitude to the subscribers who threw me a coin to buy lotions for this thing to launch it. Here's a big thank you guys. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. If you want to support me, so that I can continue to pick with this thing and make it work more perfectly there, or assemble it there, in the form of a computer, you can also support me with a coin. The link to the donation will be in the description of the video. Well, let's get started. I bought this thing from America, and it came out to me too by two pieces. It came out to me 18,000 rubles. Yes, I bought not one, but two. Two just in case. One, if anything, I will sell here in Russia, so that someone will also fart it here, and the second one remains to me. I bought them from America because they were not in Russia at all. I also considered options on Taobao. They're on other Chinese sites. There are no such places anywhere on Boishny Chinese sites. They are only available on Yabai. Here I was buying. Because of the sanctions, I had to do so. What I wrote there to different companies. They wrote to me that this is a sanctioned product, we can't send it. So I found one girl there on Avito. In fact, it turned out to be a guy who just, and the girl is this manager. So in general, I wrote this, and so I need this thing, this product, but it is also sanctioned. So it must be sent through Kazakhstan. And so he came to me through Kazakhstan. Here in principle, here is such a short story as this thing got to me. Now let me tell you about this thing itself. The first thing we see is a radiator like this blown under the server rack. Yes, these things, they are put on the server rack. You can look at the housing under the server rack. Now I'm going to show you a photo here of what it looks like. That is, the company a term in 2021 year produced such a thing here. So what is it and what is it based on? Here, under the radiator, there is a chip from the PlayStation 5 APU Graphics Plus processor. But unlike the original PlayStation 5 chip, it is a little cut here. I specifically disabled two cores, and slightly stripped down graphics cores. I certainly don't remember, but two processor cores are definitely disabled here. Here you can see the subsample. I showed there what is under the radiator. Now I'm putting this fragment here. You look if it's interesting. Well, I removed the radiator from the board. The gaskets did not remove everything. And what do we see from this side? The chip itself is located here. Here he is. What I noticed is that the crystal has such an interesting color. It's a little like, well, the color of the rose gold. Is a little giving off purple. Then what else do we see here is a chip, apparently some kind of AMD. Here, I don't know. Then I'll Google it again. I'll see if it's some kind of desktop chipset, or it's chips, it's PS5 of the same. Here. What else? Well, the cartoon controller, apparently, well, here it is some kind of there. Here, again, I do not know, when farting, this information may be needed. Then what else? We see the driver, and judging by the beauty, it is stitched, so in fact, it has a firmware on it. So if it flies, it will be problematic to replace it. So, what else is visible? Well, it's clear here, the BIOS binding, the VRM zone is pretty good, apparently, according to the number of MOSFETs. Then what else? Well, what else can I show here on the main board? There is also a BPM. Apparently the BPM is distributed somehow here. Apparently some of them goes to the percentage. Some to the kushka. Here is one of them. But most likely this one is, for example. This one is on the KU, because after all, well, a chip for games of the type. Here. Then let's look at the other side of what is. I'm going to turn the board over carefully. Now, just a second. Here too, we see on the reverse side, 8 memory cans that repeat exactly the design of the board from PS5M. Well, on PS5, the memory chips are located exactly the same way. Absolutely. I'll also attach a photo of the disassembled PS5, so you can see that everything is the same there. The memory chips here are some microns with this kind of marking. Here is something pretty short marking, I'll tell you. Usually the marking is well longer, as if on video cards. Well, okay, so this is the marking. For the rest, I don't see anything interesting here from the reverse side, in principle, anymore. Here, I want to note that the thermal pads for memory are quite thick. These are about 3 millimeters, maybe 2.5. Here the thermal pads are thick. Here, well, more or less alive. Here's about the radiator. What else? The chipset we have is cooled in them first. The second one is cooled, so we also have some kind of transit cooling down. That's basically all there is to it. That's basically all there is to it. Next, what do we see on this board? Although wait, let's tell you why it was released at all, and why it was released. The fact is that it was the 21st year of the mining boom, and then they were mining on everything, on anything. And the entrance went defective chips from the PlayStation 5. Then the company of the term, well, the term exactly produces these things, produced, fussed, and decided to solder these chips into a dress like this for mining. Yes, these things they work in mining without any problems. HiFos ORMS is installed there and mining is calmly configured. But in today's video, I'm not interested in mining on it at all. I am interested in running games on it. That's where to make a computer out of it, in general, that can run games. And spoiler, I did it after 2 or 3 sleepless nights there. I did it all. Let's look at the interfaces that we have on the board. The first thing we see is an 8-pin connector for connecting from a conventional power supply unit from the X. That is, on a conventional computer power supply, we close the black and green wire and connect this wire. Well, first we connect it, then we close it. So, and thereby turn on this thing. No more meals are required. We also see 2 power connectors that go through the server rack. If you have them assembled there, these things are worth it. Here is the power experience plugged in here. Then, what do we see here? Here we see the Sibia fan connector. Here we connect a fan to cool this thing. Then there is an EMOS battery, which saves and holds the BIOS settings. Then there are 2 jumpers here. It turns out that this one is responsible for auto-switching on when power is applied. This one is responsible for resetting the BIOS settings. Then we look further. On the board itself, we see here a connector for an NVMe SD. Here are 2 NVMes. This is actually PCI Express 4X, yes, PCI Express X4. Well, that is in theory. It is possible to connect any other expansion devices with PCI Express, thanks to some such adapter to a riser there, or something like that. Here. But usually a Stashka is put here. Then, what else do we see here? The module for connecting the TPM cryptographic key. Here is the BIOS flash drive and connectors for BIOS firmware. That's basically everything in this part here. On the reverse side, what we see here are 2 buttons here. This is the power button, this is the reset button, 2 USB of the second version, 1 display port for image output, 2 USB 3.0 and a connector. That's basically it. This is how the environment of this board looks like in principle. And here on the reverse side, there is such a backplate, under which there are memory chips. Well, in that fragment you have probably already seen. Well, that's all, friends. What will we need in order to start overcoming this thing? Let me put it away. We will need to buy a USB hub like this. I bought it for something like 200 rubles. This is a USB HAPS USB 3.0 to 4 USB 3.0 connectors. Here it is, because there are quite a few USB connectors here. Then, this thing doesn't have a sound card, so you'll need to buy at least one of these sound cards. I haven't tested it yet, but I hope it will work. It is universal, as stated by the seller. Here. And so we will need this kind of sound. Then we will also need some kind of storage device. You can use NVMe, but in view of the fact that I am a Bikara who does not have it, I will use this kind of Wonder Waffle. This is a Tipsy USB connector 3.0, an adapter, well, a case for an external hard drive. On a Satashnik, in general, an adapter. Then here I have installed M2 SATAs. Oh, not M2 SATAs, but a M SATA drive for 256 gigabytes, which I put on this adapter, here on a regular garden, and it turns out how it works. I insert this thing here, like this, and already through the Tipsy connector. Now I'm going to take this little wire here, and through this little wire here, I'm going to connect this thing to the USB 3.0 connector. This is how my drive will be connected. In this way, we will be able to roll Windows on this SNIC without using the NVMe connector. Then also, since the display port is used here, we will need some kind of adapter. I bought this adapter for the sake of interest. I haven't checked it yet, but there are adapters that are from the display port to me, if you have an HMI monitor. But I bought it for the village. I don't know, maybe in the future this thing will go to my village. I bought an adapter with a display port to VG. I don't know, I'll check later. I don't have a monitor here to check. But if you don't have a monitor with a display port, you will need some kind of adapter like this. So what else? We will need an image of the Linux operating system. Yes, do not be alarmed, it is Linux, there is nothing complicated in it. It's even an operating system that gives you dopamine if you've been struggling with some terminal problem there for a long time. Didn't understand how to do it all, but you understood, you did this thing. Then this operating system gives you dopamine. Here. So don't be afraid of Linux. Here you will need to install the image of Fedora 40 on a flash drive. That's because everything works on the Linux distribution of Fedora. I tried several distributions. It was the graphical shell of this Dishka. Yes, well, the Linuxoids will understand. I chose the desktop CD, something like Plasma. Here is the Plasma desktop CD. So in general, let's do that. Now I'm connecting this thing, but wait to connect it. Wait about cooling, how to do cooling here. Now I'll take the second one and show it. As for cooling, look, here's what I've pinned. Look, in general, these ribs are removed with wire cutters and placed here on the fan screed. Now I'm here, here's a fragment. If I find it, I'll insert it, as I cleaned it all with pliers. Here. So I'm putting off this board because, well, I have a second one, and that's how I attach two fans to the cooler master. It doesn't overheat. Everything is perfectly blown. Here they are connected to this connector of the CPI oven. I parallelized two, soldered 1 to 1 connector there, and everything is fine. By the way, the Americans didn't think of it that way. They put a damn turbine when they did it, but we Russians guessed it in short. We removed the ribs and put quiet turntables. So everything will be comfortable. Well, let's start right from this moment. The instruction from and to how to run games on this thing begins, and at the end, we will have tests in the games themselves. Well, boyers, let's start. Let's get started, guys. Well, boyers, we start the setup already with Windows, it turns out. The first thing we need to do is open an internet connection and write Quarles in Fedora's browser. Here we go to the second link to the official website of fedoraproject.org, download Fedora Workstation. And here we will need to click, it turns out here is Fedora Media, in the writer Windows and Mac. If you download the image via Linux, then choose Linux accordingly. We click, well, since I'm from under the screws, we click up to the load, and we have a GitHub opening here. And we need to download this execnik here. We upload it. It's about to download. Here it is downloaded, and we open it. After we opened it, we have a license agreement here, and it turns out we install the program, but I already have it installed. I'm going to open it now. Now, here. And here we have an installer running like this. It's like Windows. It turns out there is this thing for creating a Windows flash drive, right? Only Linus is already here. Here we click. It turns out that it is worth downloading automatically here automatically. So we leave it, click Next. Here we put choose from the assembly, we put it, and here in the list we take. It turns out Fedora CD Plasma Desktop. That's exactly the best way to put Fedora when I Plasma Desktop will go, because those who are used to Windows, it will be easier for them on CD Plasma. Here, well, you can, in principle, put any assembly. The main thing is that the distribution was Fedora Linux 40th version. After we have selected everything here, what we need, click Next. And here, be sure to specify the version 40. Hardware architectures, leave everything in place, and connect our flash drive, and select a flash drive here. Here. After you have selected the flash drive, click Download and Record, and this program will download the ISO image of this Fedora. It will roll it onto the flash drive itself, and after that there will be a notification that everything is ready. Like your flash drive is ready. That's it. After that, we will need to install Linux on our IMP just the same. That's it. The actions with Windows, the actions with the flash drive and we are already moving on to further instructions. Well, boyers, I connected it all. That is, I connected everything like that. There was not a single free US port left. But then the flash drive will leave here, and the US Papa will connect. The soundbox and everything else that needs to be connected to it. Here, I immediately connected the internet. We will need it in the future during installation. I connected this SCHU like this, fans, connected the power supply, and now let's have the first turn on of this thing. And we will need to get into the BIOS. That's how it starts right away. So we come to the screen already. Well, the boyers, so I got into the BIOS, and the first thing we need to do is, by the way, what the BIOS looks like. We see that the total mem is a gigabyte, a type processor, a beat, yes, this is all this and the BIOS version. Here there is a hacked BIOS that allows you to distribute gigabytes of memory on the graphics and on the processor in different ways. By default, if you don't have a hacked BIOS, I haven't done it yet. Maybe in the next videos on this thing I'll do it. By default, there are 8 on the chart and 8 on the flail. Here. And there I think it's enough. In principle, it's not necessary to hack the BIOS. Well, if it's interesting, it will be possible to hack it in the following videos. So, what are we doing? We go to the boot section and put our flash drive first. Here. If you have this download option enabled, we disable it. This is a download on the LAN port, that is, at the MAC address, by download via LAN. Here, we will need to put our flash drive with Linux first. After that, we press the safe check in Texi and reboot already from the flash drive. It turns out there will be a launch. And we will install Linux. Let's download it now, and I'll show you everything. Well, we booted from a flash drive, and here we are met by a grab menu. That is, the choice of loading. And we will need to go down and choose this troubleshooting. We choose this one, enter. And here the start point of Fedora CD Life basic graph with mod appears. Be sure to run it, that is, nothing else, and do everything as I do. Well, it turns out that the installation of Fedora has loaded. That's as soon as it all appeared here. We are greeted, we press the skip button, and run this shortcut, install to hard drive. Click, wait until it loads. Now it will load and show you what to do next. So, here we have the installation of Fedora. Russian language is selected here. The keyboard is set to Russian, it turns out. The focus has disappeared somewhere, it has moved somewhere. Then click continue, click continue. Damn, I'm sorry, the focus has gone somewhere. And here are the settings of the system. Here you will need to click the installation location. We have formatted it here, by the way, if anything, if you do not have a new SD, you will need to boot from Windows. It turns out to open the disk part utility and clean our disk through the party disk. After that, we will be able to use this hard drive to install Fedora. Click like this, click done. Here are all the other ticks. We leave everything as it is. Then you will need to turn on Ruth's account. It turns out to turn on the root account, set a password. I'll leave 1, put 1. He writes here, of course, that the password is too short, TTTTTTT. After that, we click done twice, done, that's it, we have set up a root account. Next, you will need to click create a user, and here we type in the username, password, that is, we create an account. So I entered the name and username turns out here. After that, just the same we entered it all, click done, done again, and that's it. We have set up everything we need here. If necessary, we also set the date and time, but I will not do this. Click start installation. After that, we have the installation of Fedora. Here we see what the move writes here, damn, focus, what's wrong with you? The installation progress, and here is where the installation process will be. After this strip completely reaches here, well, my monitor is of course huge, so the wand is big. This is where the button will appear. Now it is not active. Well, there will be a button to complete the installation. Click finish the installation, and then click here it turns out, and you will need to click restart and confirm the reboot. When there is a reboot, we look so that our keyboard turns off, the mouse turns off, when the backlight disappears, we pull out the flash drive. And we are already downloading from this SD. Here it is already in the BIOS, there will be a download from it. So, well, I'm still waiting for all this to be installed, and the next step will already be inside Fedora's operating system. Well, so I started with Fedora. Everything turns out, the system is on the SCHNIC. And now the first thing we need to do so that in the future, the system does not make our heads with its shutdowns. We need to go to the point, well, a kind of start, so to speak, setup, system parameters, open this menu. And here we will need to go down, energy saving. Here you will need to disable the sleep mode, so when in activity, we do not do anything, turn off the monitor, and then apply the settings. Well, that's it, now our system will not turn off when idle. This is done so that in the future, when we patch the Linux kernel, when we apply the mass patch, that is, AM-drivers for graphics, so that our system, God forbid, does not turn off and nothing comes off, so that we do not have anything crooked. Then another important step is the screen lock, which I was having trouble with. I didn't understand why my system was blocking anyway. I need to remove this checkmark, and I'll probably remove this checkmark too. That's it, our system will now always work, even if we are not active. Then what we do? We will need a terminal. Terminal, terminal, terminal. Here we open the console, restart it. Here we have a terminal opening. Here we will need to run the following sudo su command. This is where we get super user rights for the next actions that we will do next. Click here for our password, which we created. Everything is now available to us, root rights are available. Next, what we do is open the built-in Firefox browser. We will need to go to GitHub. We close all this unnecessary and write here AMD BC-250 guide hub. Here we open a link here, exactly this Mazon Angier here. Thanks to these dudes who made this post on GitHub. After that, we go down. If anything, just in case, I will also publish a text instruction on how to do everything, in what order. And according to the link in the description, there will be instructions. I'll probably do it after the card. Then we will need to copy this command here in the simple C stage of the script. We copy it. So keep in mind Control B does not work in the console, so we open the console, click Insert here, click Enter, that's all. In the future hours, this team will ask us there, like, do you want to continue there? Do you want this? Do you want this? You will need to press the keyboard. It will be written like, there will be a question. We will need to press Y and enter on the keyboard. That's it. This is all that some actions will be needed in the future. That's it. After that, we leave this console, so to speak, this terminal operation. There is already something in the script. That, after all the actions, the system will be rebooted in 15 seconds. That's it. We leave this console to work. Sometimes we answer her questions and what we want to do in the U. That's it. We leave for about 10 to 15 minutes, waiting for it all to get dirty. What's going on here? And here are the kernel patches, Mesa driver patches, OpenGL and Vulkan patches. Here. As I understand it, I am reading this post on Reddit. Here. That's it. Then, after our COM reboots and everything is ready, we will already proceed to installing Steam and launching games. So the boyers, that's it, my system rebooted. It turns out I messed up something and no confirmation is needed. They inserted that command over there and just wait, that's it. It took me about 10 minutes for everything, the command was executed, the computer automatically rebooted itself. So, well, in order to understand that the drivers got up, the operating system itself has already. Since at first we normally stand on the graphics, immediately through 144 Hz on the monitor. That's it, we have the firewood installed, everything is lost. Let's put Steam on now. To install Steam, we write Fedor's Steam in Google, open this link, and here we scroll down a little, and then use the terminal for them. We will set up a chat via the terminal. Copy this command, let's open the terminal in the same way now. Here the terminal opened, I insert it, press enter, here I enter the password. That's all we have to install this package, so to speak. And then we will need to insert and execute this command in the same way. And at the end, we will then need to put this command here. Let's see, this command has already been established. What we see is what he writes. After that, now we copy this here. In the Steam. Oh, everything is easy in Linux, however. I took the console, inserted it, everything is ready, the terminal. That's it, this command has also been applied to us. Now we copy this, paste it here, click enter. Everything went to download and install Steam. We are waiting, and we will have Steam installed. That's all, here we have written completed. After that, the terminal can be closed. Push the button, and that will be the point of the game, and here we have a Steam. Click once, Steam is loaded, the update is loaded, and after that there will be a standard procedure for logging into Steam. Let's now have a Steam download my updates, and I will open the Steam, and show you what settings will need to be set in the Steam. As for the boyers, so I installed the Steam, went into it and look, further adjustment of the Steam, do not be afraid. It is short-lived. Look. There are games that work on Linux without any problems, have Linux support, and they can be safely installed and played. But there are also games that are, well, inaccessible to us and writes what is available on Windows. But we have Linux, damn it, what to do, damn it. Don't be alarmed, there is a solution called Proton. Click Steam, the settings are like this, my personal data was there, so I won't show it. In general, these are Steam, settings, and compatibility parameters. You will need to turn on this function here and run other games using Proton of some version, but I'll leave here Proton Move Fix. It works most often. After that, you will need to restart the Steam, click Restart, and now the Steam will restart, and I will show you that now we will have Steam calmly. Let's download games and run them through Proton in the future. Now we go to the library, and let's open the same game that was unavailable to us. That's right, we have it available. I checked it specifically on this one. I downloaded it already before, as if I was doing farting. That's all, it works calmly. Well, let's put Cyberpunk on now, put some other games on a couple, and have a look at the performance test. That's what the boyers are, we start the tests with Cyberpunk. I finally set up the overlay. I didn't want to install the overlay. I had to manually do the config. Let me explain what is where. Look, KPU, in short, we have a load mapping bug, and we have 6.5 times we open AMD. We get a full disclosure of the video card. Well, okay, in fact it's just a tank, and monitoring for some reason incorrectly shows, well, DPS loading. Then the KPU consumption for some reason, well, and the processor also shows incorrectly for some reason. At the same time, the voltage and frequency, temperature, all this shows correctly. The total CPU load, here we have CPU and core frequencies shown, CPU consumption, then RAM usage shows. But the only point is that it writes in gigabits here. Yes, I didn't make a reservation. It's in gigabits that it writes the memory load. It's, well, something, well, like hard drives. There's 1 terabyte there. It's 1,000 of something there, not 1,024. Here gigabit is the same topic. Then loading of video memory means that below loading of RAM in gigabits, and loading of the swap file is also in gigabits. Then the actual FPS, frame time, and frame time graph. Here is basically such a graph. So according to the graphics settings here, what have I done? I set the graphics preset to high, turned off the super resolution, and set the texture quality to medium. Here, I don't touch the other items. Well, let's run the test, and see what FPS we will have on this chip. Well, these are the results we get. The average FPS value is 62, full HD resolution, that's without any FSR. The settings are high, FSR is disabled. The textures are average. Here, well, I think it was possible to put a high one, because they saw that we still have video memory available. That is, we had 8 gigabytes loaded there, well, almost 5 gigs. Here such a joke writes because of the fact that we run through, so to speak, the emulator, writes that the OS is Windows 10 Pro. But here is the processor model, here is the video card model. Glad to be in Navi 10. What? All right. So, well, in general, I want to say that this thing is really running on this. Here we see the same Linux, here is this window. Well, that's it, there was Cyberpunk. Now let's move on to CS2. So, CS2. I'm going to show you the graphics settings now. The graphics settings are low. It turns out the preset is low, so I'll turn off the FSR, because I'm so full HD resolution. Where we will have ifs or soap, I put it, it turns off. That's it, these are the graphics settings. Let's go into the tub now, it turns out, into the Desmic, and see what the FPS will be. Well, on Dust we have this FPS. Of course, there are drawdowns up to about 50 frames, up to 60, but on average somewhere it keeps at the level of 80. Well, at the beginning of the game, of course there were drawdowns and up to 30 frames when I was killed, here. Well, the game has apparently weakened, and everything is fine now. Well, you can watch, here in principle, this is the FPS, here. Well, at least they seem to be playing. Or not. Well, look, there's already a stable type of about 80-90, stable. And, well, yes, after all, the game has been played, here. I do not know, but of course so. Well, apparently the COP2 is not particularly optimized for this hardware. Or this is the case in Linux. Of course, I really hope that if we can run Windows, no, we can run Windows. But we can put drivers that will somehow work fine with this graphics. So far there are not even any drivers at all. There are only under Linux, and then those that get dirty with that very command that I did it all.
и то те, которые патчатся вон той самой командой, которой я все это делал.
Here,
Вот.
I hope
Я
sooner or
надеюсь, рано или
later we
поздно
will
мы
still add
все-таки
to this piece
подготовим
of hardware
методичку
by
по
a huge
огромным
community of
сообществам
owners,
владельцев,
well,
ну как
as a small
маленьких
community of
пробников
the owner of
вот
such a
такой
thing.
штуки.
Here, I
Вот. Я
hope the
надеюсь, что
drivers will
драйвера
appear
рано или
sooner
поздно
or later
появятся
under
в
Windows.
Google.
Well, we'll wait,
Будем ждать,
we'll
будем
watch.
смотреть.
That's all,
Поэтому все,
friends.
друзья,
If
если
you
вы
want
хотите
to
как-то
somehow
поддержать,
support the
так сказать,
development
вот
of this
этот
front
ролик,
end,
вот этого
this
проекта,
project, please
пожалуйста,
throw in some
киньте
money.
какой-то
It will help a
тоже
lot.
мне
It will
поможет,
show that you are
да,
interested in
вам
this
интересно
hardware.
это железо.
So,
Вот,
after
и
all,
все-таки
we will
будем
try to
стараться
somehow run it
видео
all on
выпускать.
Windows. Also,
Также
from my
без
experiments,
экспериментов.
I have an
Есть
idea to
идея
insert
вставить
some video card
сюда
here through an
какую-нибудь
adapter of
видеокарту
the
через
PC Express with the
PCI-Express
NVM.
с
Here,
NVMe.
that is,
Вот,
to
то есть
put another
поставить
kind of
такую
Viduka to this
какую-нибудь к
board
этой
and
плате
start already
и
from under
загрузиться
Windows.
уже из-под
See the
винды
same
эти
results in
самые
games already
дата-игры
from
уже
under
из-под
Windows.
винды.
That's the way
Вот,
things are.
такие дела.
That's
На
all the
этом все,
boyars.
бояре.
Thank you all
Всем
very much for
спасибо
watching.
большое за
I wish
просмотр.
everyone
Всем
good
желаю
luck.
удачи.
Here,
Вот, передаю
I say
привет
hello to the
ребятам,
guys who,
которые,
well,
ну,
on
на
GitHub,
GitHub,
which are on
которые на
Reddit,
Reddit,
to those brilliant
тем
dudes who
гениальным
made a
чувакам,
script
которые
that
сделали
patch it
скрипт,
everything with
который
one
все
command.
патчит одной командой.
Thank you guys so
Большое
much.
спасибо вам, ребят.
That's
Всё,
all.
чётко
I'm talking about
заболтался.
something.
Всё, давай.
Everyone,
Всем
come
пока-пока.
on, bye-bye to everyone.